RNC.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
Now, I feel you, and I was like, okay, because I used to watch you, like I said, beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I did my research. What is you doing over there with them white folks at Scientology? God, Tom Cruise, John Travolta, what in the hell
that's funny.
are you doing?
Bless those keys, the RNC.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
I ain't never met John Travolta or Tom Cruise, but I feel you. But I got you. That's funny. I get that question a lot.
You should.
See, I didn't get a question about going to, no, for real. And I get that question, right? I started laughing. I said, interesting. So I studied the Bible. I was in a Christian church. Holy Quran in the mosque. And by the way, in the mosque, we study everything. Bible and Holy Quran.
Okay.
I studied with some Buddhists. I went all the way to China and studied with some Buddhists. I'm not getting questioned for none of this. Then I go to colleges with white teachers. Every teacher that I had outside of my piano teacher was white, so I'm not being questioned about that. Same college, by the way, that George Bush Sr. went to, Compton College. So I ain't being questioned about that.
Right, sure.
Then I started reading Scientology books dealing with literacy.
Okay.
Literacy. So this is, okay, cool. Mind you, you ain't questioning your white teacher, but you're getting knowledge from him.
Okay.
My religion is Islam. Always been that. So here's my main thing. If you are going to allow someone to control you in what you think and how you study, then you a slave. We are taught in the Nation of Islam that we are to seek knowledge, to become masters and to master the science and knowledge of everything. So that means anything that's in my community, where my people at, which Scientology is in our community, I need to know what the hell that is.
I feel you on that.
That's my duty. I need to know what the hell that is. And when I started researching, I said, oh, I'm reading these books. I'm like, oh, that's us. That's ours. This white man could not have known this before us.
Right.
And
Hubbard, I think his name.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Right.
And he even said in a lot of his books that I read that he learned from black folks. He got it from natives. When he traveled to Africa, he got it from us. So my deal is, oh, so you did not take it and say, I made it. I got it from y'all. I said, okay, I can respect the fact that this white man wasn't a Columbus and said he discovered this. No. He said, oh, no. This came from 50,000 years of thinking men, upon which Scientology and Dianetics could not be possible. The credit is theirs, not mine. First page of the book Dianetics. Mind you, I'm not pushing no Scientology.
Sure.
If y'all want to go study whatever, you study whatever. But when you give me a question like this, I have to know. That's why you said I know why you're on that list. I cannot be limited in my knowledge. To know. That's why you said I know why you're on that list. I cannot be limited in my knowledge. I will not be limited in my knowledge just because your lack of maturity.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
Truman to come to peace in war times. We just listened to the clip of Mr. Islam doing the hotel buck dancing supreme shuffle, penny loafers on, crispy clean with the nickels in them. And those of you old enough to know, y'all know what them penny loafers used to look like. You just put the pennies in them over the top of the foot. Some people used to have nickels in them. But anyway, I made this point more than once about I don't understand how all of y'all have these computers and you're not really researching. And I'm using this particular scenario because Pierre and them got into it with Rizza over a year ago, and they was going back and forth saying certain things, and he was being who he is, and the thing is they have these individuals on their platforms. Again, it's just for views and clicks and things like that. Now he was sitting here asking this man questions about Scientology and what he was doing over there. See, that's the wrong thing. See, that's the wrong thing. What you should have been doing is your research on Scientology first, because they're asking questions as if this is 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like it's before the computer. That stuff they're saying, and if you look at the pattern, I keep telling y'all that, follow the pattern. The pattern is very clear once you understand. This is why the information and the way that I'm doing what I'm doing, it goes to the core of what they're into. Once you understand what they're into, the questioning becomes different. But once again, because he prepares to dance around this stuff, y'all don't understand that he is in a cult / religion called Nation of Islam that talks about Caucasian people, but the God of the Nation of Islam is white. Look him up, Master Fraud Muhammad, Caucasian guy. But this individual is being a hypocrite, one, because y'all a lot of the Nation of Islam worship Master Fraud Muhammad. On top of mainstream Islam doesn't even see the Nation of Islam as Muslims. They just created their own thing. It's no different than, what the Mormons did and the Baptists and the Holiness. All of them is all knockoffs of the Catholic Church. How is Scientology a church? None of that stuff is in the Bible. This stuff he's saying isn't in the Bible. This is how the negative forces of nature programs people in this way, to the point that it's no connection. You ain't gonna find none of that stuff in there. You ain't gonna find Zeno in there. You're not gonna find none of this stuff. And he'll tell you that Aaron Hubbard went around the world and concocted all and put all this stuff in the pot, like Dr. York and them did. They do the same pattern. They put all this stuff in there and slap a name on it. He's sitting here talking like he wouldn't study this. Oh, this is our stuff. This is our stuff. Foolishness. Because they should have been going into Scientology to understand the proper questioning to be asking. And this is why they always end up, they're going to look back at these videos that I'm doing and things that's out here that I'm showing. They're going to bite them. They're going to say, man, I was not doing this right. Because these people just want to sit around and talk, but they don't really do no research. This go for Joe Butt and the rest of them. I don't know who y'all got working in y'all department, but y'all supposed to not just research your guests. You should research what they're into so you can have a better platform to be able to ask questions. They keep asking the same thing. A random person who got a little bit of knowledge in the Nation of Islam or about it will say, okay, what are you doing over there with Scientology? That's surface information. That's nothing. You understand? What we should be doing is sticking and asking them questions about this rape. You understand? These 2 rapes on them. Y'all sitting here asking light questions. People like Pierre and them, they should come back and look at this stuff and say, man, we need to do they already done dropped at least 2 videos, Comedy Hype, on the Nation of Islam and its hypocrisy. So they need to upgrade their stuff and bring up Rizza Islam, because that section of Comedy Hype is good when they give you historical information. We need to be talking about these rapes that's going on, sir.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
So that they can see real life is real life. Don't get this thing twisted. I promise you, man, y'all think it's a joke. Like I mentioned earlier when I said your brother was accused of raping somebody. Like I mentioned earlier when I said your brother was accused of raping somebody. When I said your brother was accused of raping somebody. You don't just lie down and accept that as a black man. That doesn't just, affect you a little bit. You have no idea what that does.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
And that's only one of the things that your brother is going through right now. Just one. The beauty is, don't nobody believe it because they know goddamn well it's a lie.
Your sister is charging you, brother, with rape. Your sister is charging you, brother, with rape. Your sister is charging you, brother, with rape. With rape.
Come on in. Okay, good. And they try to get something on you. They can't get nothing on you yet. You keep going. You're still going. Okay, let's go to this level. Then they start coming after your character. Then they start to accuse you of things. Then they start to say you did this. Then they start to say you've done something illegal. Then they go from the illegal thing to where it's like, okay, good. We accuse him of that. But he's still going. He's still fighting against us. He's still exposing us. She's still fighting against us. She's still exposing us. They keep going. All right, let's go to another level. Because the lie about you doing anything illegal doesn't work, then they go to another level. They say, well, you know what? Hey, he raped somebody.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
But all it takes is an accusation and the brother's life is destroyed. Calling a man a rapist and really putting that out there. Calling a man a rapist and really putting that out there.
Your sister is charging you, brother, with rape. Your sister is charging you, brother, with rape. That's a horrible challenge.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
Extremely disgusting too, by the way. That's like I kill, right? That's a mindset. I would kill somebody for doing that to my sister. Make sure I say this on record. If a man were to rape my sister, yeah, I would go to jail for that. But for you to accuse not just any brother, this one, me, Rizza Islam, of that.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
Explain to me where this mystery person is. Same old playbook? Explain to me where this mystery person is. Same old playbook? You accuse a black man of rape? You accuse a black man of rape? Really? Nobody can tell you how to feel unless you yourself, unless they've gone through it as well. Can't nobody tell you how to feel about this. If you're not a black man who has been accused of rape, can't nobody tell you how to feel about this. If you're not a black man who has been accused of rape, you don't know what to say to me.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
All right, trim me the copies in wartime. I brought those skits back because I wanted you to understand where I'm going with this. All right, so we already know he got 2 rapes on him. We know that he going to court next month on the 26th, 8:30 in the morning, room 104. We know this. We know he's been lying and scamming and scheming and running around the internet, jumping on every camera that he can find, and even his own. And that's why I used that little clip for the Malcolm X movie that Spike Lee put out, and that was a great jewel that Elijah Muhammad was giving Malcolm in that scene, because it seemed that a lot of people today don't understand that. And the thing about the camera in this climate now, people just overshare. They overdo the things that they experience. And people like him, Young Pharaoh, Nature Boy, all these different guys, they just tell so much. And a lot of times they talk, the things that they're hiding comes right out. But I just wanted y'all to pay attention that this dude here is a non-black African man perpetrating in a black organization, pretending to be one of us, and he's a Scientologist. The dude is confused. And it's a lot more videos to come, because, you know, he deserved it. He been nothing but a cancer in the black and Hispanic community. He's a hypocrite with all letters capitalized. And he has no right to be poking at other people and talking about what other people have done when he's committing the same crimes on a minuscule level. So it doesn't make him less bad, because the other people he pointed at took trillions of dollars. He took millions. The only difference is the amount, but both parties are guilty of stealing. So that's how I see that. It's right versus wrong. So while he's walking around here trying to tell y'all and explain and say, you know, people lying on him about rape and all of that, this is an occurring thing in the Scientology community, this rape thing.
When I say your brother was accused of raping somebody,
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras. Oh, them cameras are bad as any narcotic.
Like, I would never tell, when I was in, a non-Scientologist my real problems. It would be kind of bad for the church to ever appear human to a non-Scientologist. It would be setting a bad example. Like, it would actually be considered like a transgression.
That was Leah Remini, the actress, on Joe Rogan's podcast, talking about the Church of Scientology. I'm Anjanette Levy, and welcome back to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. Leah Remini has put out a long tweet thread. It has 36 points. She's never been shy about her criticism of the Church of Scientology. She left the church back in 2013, and she has basically said that it is evil, the entire church. She even had a television show on A&E for 3 seasons that talked about the Church of Scientology. And now, in the middle of Danny Masterson's sexual assault trial in Los Angeles, Remini has taken to Twitter and Instagram with a 36-point tweet thread about the trial and the Church of Scientology, and why she believes that the trial needs to be getting more attention, and she believes that the Church of Scientology and the attorney, Philip Cohen, for Danny Masterson are trying to basically scrub Scientology from the trial itself. So joining us to talk about this is someone who's covered the Church of Scientology for many years and knows Leah Remini, Tony Ortega. Tony of the Underground Bunker, welcome back to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
And Jeanette, thanks for having me.
Tony, you broke the news, you told me, of Leah leaving the church back in 2013. Tell us a little bit about that first.
Right. July 8, 2013, I broke the news that she had left Scientology. And in that first story, I mentioned the background about how she had been at Tom Cruise's wedding and had dared to ask about the leader's missing wife. All the stuff that later showed up in her book was really in that first story. And so I know her pretty well. I was on her, I made a couple of appearances on her series. But I will tell you, I was a little surprised she came out with those tweets right now, because I know the defense has made the allegation that this whole thing was cooked up by her, which is not true. These women reported to the police on their own. And so I think she's been relatively quiet about this case because she doesn't want to influence it all. But she was obviously frustrated that there hasn't been more attention. And so she came out with this really strong tweet storm yesterday. And I can tell you, everything she said in there was accurate. She was describing what's been said in this trial, what it's like in Scientology for victims. These are things she knows really, really well.
And she basically says that the Church of Scientology is a multi-billion-dollar cult that will cover up the sex crimes of its members. What do you think about her making that claim?
Well, I think it's something she said before, and it's something that she showed on her series, and it's something that's coming out in the testimony in this trial. So that, we're seeing that these women are alleging that this organization controlled everything that they were doing and saying, and preventing them from going to the police. And we're giving Danny Masterson protection because he was what's known as an upstat celebrity, somebody that brings them good publicity.
And you said that this was actually brought up on Wednesday morning by the defense in Masterson's trial, this tweet thread.
Right. So this morning started out before the jury came into the courtroom. Judge Olmedo said that the defense, once again, wanted to make a point about something. And defense attorney Karen Goldstein then described the tweets and was saying how prejudicial this was, and this was going to prevent a fair trial. But then Judge Olmedo and Deputy DA Reinhold Mueller responded that they hadn't seen it. They're not following Leah Remini. They've asked the jurors not to pay attention to social media. And although Judge Olmedo said that although some jurors had mentioned seeing her show, she didn't really think any of them were following Leah on social media. So she said, you can put that on the record, but that's all she was going to do. And Karen Goldstein said, thank you, Your Honor.
Well, let's look at the tweet number 1 from the tweet storm. It says, did you know that if you are a Scientologist, you are forbidden from contacting law enforcement when another Scientologist has committed a crime against you? If you do, you will be declared a suppressive person and lose your family, friends, and livelihood overnight. Your thoughts on that particular claim, Tony?
Yeah, that's been testified to several times in this trial. And what's interesting is this also came up at the preliminary hearing. These women are saying that it's in the Scientology rules. You can't turn in another Scientologist. And when they were put on the spot about this last year by Danny Masterson's defense attorney, Tom Mesereau, at that time, they actually got out the ethics book that Scientology uses, and it says it right there in black and white, Aunt Jeanette. You are not to turn in another Scientologist to civil authorities, which obviously includes the police. So what's interesting is that if you look at the other media that's coming out this last couple of weeks, the Church of Scientology has said again and again to reporters, we don't have that rule. We don't have that rule. But I mean, I can literally pull out the book and show it to you. And all of these Scientologists under oath, under penalty of perjury, have said this is what they were taught. So Scientology can say that all they want, but it's literally in their ethics book that you cannot turn in a fellow Scientologist to civil authorities.
What I don't understand is, and maybe I don't want to take the train too far off the tracks here, but it sounds like if this is all true, if it's true, that there's some type of conspiracy going on here. And I don't understand why the Church of Scientology and its practices aren't being investigated by the DA or the police in LA.
Well, Anjanette, you just hit right on it. And that is, we've known about these practices for decades. The government has known about these practices for decades, that if you run afoul of Scientology's rules, you will be called a suppressive person, which is basically their form of excommunication. But even worse than that, all other Scientologists will be forced to cut off contact with you. This is what splits families apart, what splits parents from children, brothers from sisters. This is what Scientology's been doing, and it's documented in court records going back 50 years. So, it comes out, Leah Remini tweets about it, and I'm asked, is that true? And I'm saying, this has been so well documented for so long. It's a fact. And I even have a list at my website of people and how long it's been since they've seen their mother or their brother or their father or their sister, because Scientology has made those families split up.
Let's go to point number 3, where Leah Remini tweets, "First, let me explain how Scientologists are controlled. Scientology's policies, written by founder L. Ron Hubbard, can never be altered and must be interpreted literally, allowing this criminal org to control members and insulate itself from bad PR." So this is all about PR, according to Leah Remini.
Absolutely. It's about control. L. Ron Hubbard was the founder of Scientology. He ran it from 1950 until his death in 1986. They literally call him Source, meaning everything comes from him. And he was a former science fiction writer. He had written millions of words of policies governing everything that a Scientologist does. And they can consider his words so sacrosanct that now that he's died, they can't change anything. And so they keep doing the same things over and over and over. And like Leah points out, that's unalterable. So if somebody comes to tell you what a family being split up in the 70s or a family being split up in the 80s, they're still doing it today because they're following the same rules that they can't change.
And I actually read a story with Danny Masterson's, I believe his stepfather, in the LA Times, where he talked about basically being shunned by his family after he said some things about the church.
Right, Joe Raish. And I've interviewed him myself, and I actually said this early on in the trial, that one of the most Scientological things on display in the courtroom every day is that Danny's younger siblings, Alana Masterson and Jordan Masterson, who are both actors, are sitting in the family section every day. And they are just like a symbol of what Scientology is about. Their father, their biological father, Joe Raish, who was Danny's stepfather, ran afoul of Scientology for various reasons 17 years ago. He was kicked out, and those children of his have completely cut him out of their lives as Scientology instructs them. So there they are, sitting there in the courtroom, a symbol for how Scientology splits families apart.
And Leah Remini calls these women credible who've accused Danny Masterson of rape. She said that they reported their rapes to Scientology and to the top ethics officials in Scientology and a few trusted friends. So she's saying these claims are corroborated. And that's now we move to tweet point number 32, where Remini says, "Scientology has obstructed justice in covering up Danny's crimes, and his case is not the only time they've done this. Scientology has covered up at least hundreds of similar crimes involving sexual violence." Tony, this goes to my question again. If they're part of a cover-up, a conspiracy, where's the criminal investigation?
I mean, that's always the biggest question. Mike Grinder's got a new book out about his time in Scientology and the things he saw, and that he went to the FBI. And the FBI has actually started investigations. Some involved charges, some didn't. It's always a question, when is the federal government going to take these things seriously and investigate what Scientology is doing? And I think, Scientology is very good at intimidating people. And yes, that includes law enforcement. As Mike Rinder once explained to me, a manager at the Department of Justice has got to make the decision. about an investigation of Scientology, are they ready for that to be the rest of their career? Because that's what it's going to be. Years and years of vicious fights in courts. And I think the government sometimes just doesn't have the stomach for it.
Well, if sexual assaults are being covered up with their knowledge and there's evidence to support that, as we've seen with the Catholic Church, you can't commit crimes in the name of religion. So these are all claims and allegations at this point. We will see what comes of this. Tony Ortega, thanks so much for being with us today, as always.
You will be in the public eye. Beware of them cameras.
Your attorneys may appear in court on your behalf without you present.
Yes, sir.
The lead singer of the rock band Mars Volta takes the stand in Danny Masterson's rape trial and says he was stalked by the Church of Scientology. Journalist Tony Ortega discusses what he learned about this incredible testimony. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, so we want to talk the latest right now in the trial of actor Danny Masterson out in Los Angeles, which we've been following here on Sidebar. The That 70s Show star is facing criminal charges that he raped 3 women between 2001 and 2003, who were all then members of the Church of Scientology, and Masterson himself is a current and longstanding member of the church as well. Now, this is a very, very serious case. This is a case where if he's convicted, he could face up to 45 years to life in prison. That's what's at stake here. Now, we have an interesting new witness who has taken the stand and provided some fascinating testimony. I'm talking about Cedric Bixler-Zavala. So to talk a little bit more about this, I want to bring on my very special guest, journalist Tony Ortega, who's been following this case. He's been a frequent contributor here on the Sidebar podcast on the Danny Masterson story. Tony is the founder of the Underground Bunker, where he writes about Scientology-related issues, and you can find him at tonyortega.substack.com. Tony, good to see you, and good to see you in an environment where we do not have a barking dog in the background. I know a lot of people hated that, but there's only so much you can do when you're reporting from outside the courthouse, but it's good to see you inside.
Thank you, Jesse. Yes, today there's no court, so I'm not at the courthouse and there's no barking dog.
All right. Well, now that we got that put aside, let's talk about Cedric Bixler-Zavala. Let's first start, who is he and what is his connection to the case before we even get into his testimony?
Yeah, Cedric Bixler-Zavala is a singer for Mars Volta and At the Drive-In and some other projects. He's known for his very creative, fascinating lyrics. He's got a new album out with Mars Volta, and he's married to Jane Doe 3. And he was sandwiched Friday between 2 LAPD detectives, which was a little odd. And I've had some people ask me, why did he testify at all? Because Jane Doe 3, his wife, had testified earlier in the week about these incidents that had occurred way back in 2001. Really brutal incidents she alleges happened from Danny Masterson. She didn't even meet Cedric until 2008, and they got married pretty quickly after they met. And then a couple years later, in 2010 or 2011, she told him for the first time about these incidents, and that's what they were asking him about. And I noticed some people, it was curious why he was being asked, because some of the things he remembers slightly differently than she does, which, you know, you would expect 2 people 10 years later recounting things. But I think what's important to understand about Cedric's testimony is the prosecution wants to lay down a foundation that each of these women told other people about their allegations before they had ever heard about each other. And the reason they're doing that is the defense's theory is that these 3 women got together and cooked this all up as a conspiracy. So that's why we heard in Jane Doe 1's case that she had told a cousin and a friend in 2003 about her incident. And now we've heard from Jane Doe 3 that she told her husband in 2010 or 2011. All of this occurred before these women had ever heard about each other being victims. And I think starting tomorrow, we'll begin to hear from Jane Doe 2, and she has her own corroborating witnesses in particular an actress named Jordan Ladd, the daughter of Cheryl Ladd, who again will corroborate that she was talking about her attack from Masterson years before she had an opportunity to meet these other women. So I think that's the purpose of why we had this rock and roll star in the court on Friday, Jesse.
So let's talk about his testimony for a minute, Cedric's testimony. His wife tells him that she was sexually assaulted by Danny Masterson. What did he say? What his reaction was to this? What did he say about the way that she described it to him? What a revelation that is to be told that.
A really interesting thing that Cedric said was that when she was telling him about this attack, when she woke up and she was injured and Danny was laughing about it, he said that she said it in a robotic way, like she wasn't even there. And it made him realize that not only had something happened to her, but that she hadn't really processed it fully or didn't really understand what had happened. And I think everybody in the courtroom was, caught by that. That was a very interesting thing that he said.
You made a kind of peace in war times. So before we get out of here, we gotta look at this whole thing in its entirety. So those of you who just started paying attention or who may have been seeing this whole thing unfold, you gotta remember that life always sends us warnings. Okay? And Mr. Rizza had a lot of warnings before this incident came, with him being on the 12 disinformation dozen, now 11 disinformation dozen, because one of the doctors has been eliminated. Based on my observation and interpretation, I do think that man was eliminated because the evils of this world, especially when it comes to big pharma and all of that, these people are definitely some of the most destructive organizations on the planet. So you won't find no argument with that. So let's go back. First, Rizza Islam knows that he knew what right and wrong was. Most people understand that taking things that don't belong to you is wrong. Most people know that stealing is wrong. So he was involved with 2 organizations that would teach you that. Being around most coherent people would tell you that. So, but he kept going. He following behind his mother, rest in power, and other adults that manipulated them to steal. And when they all got caught, that was nature warning them then. Everybody else took used their intelligence to say, you know what, I'm finna take these charges, I'm gonna plead out and just get on with my life. All right, Mr. Rizza did not heed his warning. Neither did his mother, rest in power, and nature got her through cancer. And so Mr. Islam still kept going because he's had a few continuances since they've been going to court for this mess. So from the time he lost his mother and all of the stuff he's been doing, his conscience is still reminding him, and he still kept going. He kept going and kept going. And then guess what happened? Nature put young Pharaoh in there. Young Pharaoh was used as a warning. Young Pharaoh came through. At least on 3 different occasions, they argued about his situation, dealing with the World Literacy Program and Scientology and knocking on, and that $3.8 million that him and his family helped defraud the government with insurance frauds and vouchers and things like that. He ignored the warning. He kept going and kept going. Eventually, he ended up kept getting deplatformed because of the things that he was saying. A lot of it has a lot of merit to it. Not gonna take that from him, but he was only utilizing these things for his own ego. And him trying to be a fake Malcolm X Now he kept going. They kept deplatforming. He kept coming back. Now look what happened. He didn't listen, right? I had to step into the ring. Nature used me to bring forth more evidence to make him realize you do know it's about to get worse. I didn't foresee this particular situation with the list and all of that, because I just not too long became acquainted with that, because I think I heard him speak about this around 2021, but I was busy doing my own thing, and nature brought me back to bring this forward again. So they use me to bring forth all of this stuff. Guess what? It's curtain call, because my sign is Capricorn, and the planet that rules my sign dealing with a type of justice and karma is Aquarius. The planet that rules Aquarius, and I think that is Uranus, I think, and Saturn. Those are two planets that deals with karma and dharma. Being bad luck, dharma being good luck or judgment. And so that's it. I'm here to call judgment as a physical representation of that. And now, because he couldn't stop his ego, which is the spirit being in noon, his psyche now done got him marked for death. So the thing is, he knows his times is really, really short. He done ran his mouth, and it's one thing to be righteous to a certain degree, and you fighting for the cause. And something happens to you, you have that's a good death, because you know what you're doing it for. But this guy here is not positive. He's negative. He's imitating African Americans, for the lack of a better term, or Ethiopians. He has not kinky. He's false. He falsified information. He falsified his persona, which is allowing his spirit being to use his physical flesh as a tool to get knocked off in one form or another. So I hope he understands that he did this to himself, and that I just wanted to remind you that he was warned many a time, just like all of us, if you know how to listen. But you got some people in society that no matter what happens, they're gonna keep going. The same way the so-called elites, they've been receiving warning after warning, and they still keep going. So they all are earning their place for judgment, because we in judgment time. We've been in judgment 61 years. We got 2 more years, and then that's gonna wrap this whole negative, nasty cycle up. These fake religions and all of the problems they have been causing the innocent and the downtrodden. So nobody should feel bad about what this man done put himself into in particular, because we know that he had a bad background, and that's all he been doing is using people's victimization of these same organizations he's talking about, but he's just as bad on a lower level. So I wanted to end it with that, and the rest of y'all that hear this eventually, pay attention to see if nature been warning you, and think about all of the times that you was given a point in existence to say turn back, turn back, turn back, turn back, turn back, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And at noon, that's called doing what's best for you may not be best for your race, and doing what's best for your race is always best for you. So it's clear that he and a lot of other people are not doing what's best for their race. It's always a selfish, what they call ulterior motive underneath the surface. So for y'all who's watching, don't have no mercy, because he earned what's going to happen to him. I can't speak for the other people that's in that list, because I don't know them like that. But between him and Robert Kennedy Jr., they both have some explaining to do, and I hope they making peace with what's going on, because all these folks want is money and power and fame, and they want a name for themselves, but this ain't the time to do that. When you work as a group, it's more harder for that type of self-sacrificing yourself for nothing, when you could do it as a group and use your intelligence to try to stay out of harm's way. Truly, the calm, the peace in wartime.